Hi guys, and welcome to Juggling Life. I don't know if all of my recent research into autism, pathological demand avoidance syndrome, ADHD and conduct disorder has just made me paranoid, or if I'm being an overprotective parent, or if my concerns are actually warranted and justified. My eldest son, who is about to turn 13, was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 7. My second son, soon to turn 9, is also in the process of being assessed. The ADHD specialist nurse has said that from what she can see, his case is quite a complex one. He does show some signs or traits of ADHD, but she thinks that more of his symptoms are ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder, and she wants him to be seen by the paediatric consultant. There's another multi-agency meeting being called in the next couple of weeks where all of the professionals involved in my son's care will be present. And if my understanding is correct, if education agree with health, then the ASD assessment process can begin. However, we have already been told that the waiting time, the waiting list for these assessments is currently upwards of 18 months. While my understanding of ADHD is fairly good, I didn't really know much about ASD, so that's when I took to researching once again. Night after night I would sit and surf the internet researching autism and the symptoms and things associated with it. I needed to understand more about the condition and how it affects the people that have it and the people that care for them. I've also watched many YouTube videos about the subject. During my research, I came across a very interesting piece on a condition called PDA, or pathological demand avoidance syndrome, which is quite a mouthful. It's a syndrome that I hadn't heard of before, and in fact, in reading more about it, it's actually only fairly recently been recognised as a syndrome on the autism spectrum. The more I read about it, the more I realised that my 8-year-old son fit the description to a T. Now, I'm not suggesting that he doesn't show traits of ADHD or that he doesn't have any ASD symptoms. That is quite possible, but for all I know, it may be possible for him to have or be diagnosed with more than one of these syndromes, as they do all appear to be comorbid disorders. You generally find one goes alongside the other. Either way, it's certainly something that I will be discussing, the possibility of PDA, with the ADHD specialist nurse who will be at the next meeting, and also the consultant when we eventually get to see him. I also have a daughter who will be 6 years old in June. Thankfully, I have never seen any symptoms of autism or ADHD or anything in her. She's very bright and she's doing very well at school. She didn't have any developmental delays, and as far as I can see, behaviourally, she's a typical 6-year-old girl, so that's good. Lastly, I have a fourth child, my third son, who is 18 months old. And I think this is where my paranoia comes in. I in all of the things that I've read and watched on autism, the main message that I've received from everything is that early intervention is so important with autism, and that if it's caught and diagnosed early enough, that so much can be done to improve the future of the child. And so obviously that is constantly in my mind. But I've recently found myself watching my 1.5-year-old very, very closely. And I've observed some quite interesting things. Now, he was born at 36 weeks, so he was premature by a month. And he stopped breathing shortly after delivery, and he had to be intubated and was really quite poorly for the first few months of his life. He didn't crawl on his knees until fairly late, preferring to army crawl or commando crawl around the place, dragging himself around by his arms. Eventually, though, he did start crawling on his knees. As I say, though, he's 18 months old now, and he's only just started taking his first few steps. He makes a lot of noises, but doesn't have very many single words. Now, from looking at sort of generic milestones of young children, by 18 months they should sort of have at least kind of 8 to 10 single words that can be clearly understood by pretty much anybody. Well, he can say mum and dad, but that's about the extent of it. I can see him trying to say other words, but I think it's only me that understands what he's trying to say. He loves opening and closing doors. He would sit there doing it for ages, and cupboard drawers and doors. If somebody accidentally if one of the other children left one of the safety gates open, we have two in our lounge, one that goes out to the hallway and one that goes out to the kitchen. Even if it was only open fractionally, if he spotted it, he would bolt to the gate to get out of it faster than anything. He would try and escape at lightning speed. He has a fascination with lights, and given the opportunity, I think he would also be turning them on and off. He has a light toy that he has in his bedroom, which, one of the projector lights that projects stars and moons and things onto the ceiling, and he likes to play with it. And he will turn it on and turn it off and turn it on and turn it off, and so on and so forth. And I think given the opportunity to get to the light switches for the main lights, he would probably find that quite fun too. I've also noticed that quite often when he's in his high chair or in his cot, he headbangs. He kind of rocks backwards and forwards and bangs his head. If he's in his high chair, obviously he bangs the back of his head. If he's laying in his cot, it's normally he's either laying on his tummy or he's kind of up on his knees, and he will bang his head on the mattress. While he's doing it, he kind of makes a monotone moaning sound. It's just a noise. He's not saying anything. He's not crying either. He doesn't actually seem to be distressed or upset in any way. It does happen more when he's tired, and quite often if he wakes up during the night, he will do that to get himself back to sleep. So in a strange kind of way, it must be kind of self-soothing. He has this thing with food where either I'll feed him or he'll put something in his mouth and then he'll take it out again. Now, I noticed this from when he was quite young. He's not as bad with it now that he can feed himself more. But if I'm feeding him, or if when he was younger, if I was feeding him like baby food, if it had like lumps in it, or if it had like bits in it, like bits of pasta or something, he would pull them out. But sometimes, even if it's things like Weetabix, he'll be eating it, and then all of a sudden the hand will go in the mouth, and he'll, like, half of it will come back out all over his fingers. Sometimes he'll just put it back in again and eat it. Now, that could just be normal kind of baby behaviour, learning about textures and things, but there were some foods that he just, or some of the baby foods he just didn't seem to get along with, which is strange, but there you go. He also scratches himself quite a lot. Now, I do know he has dry skin, and so you know, I'm always kind of moisturising him and using emollient and things like that, but his lower back seems to, and there's nothing really there. He doesn't have particularly dry skin on his lower back, but that seems to be where he's constantly scratching at, even though there's nothing there. I can't see any kind of irritation or anything there. He just chooses that place to reach around and scratch. Now, a lot of these things are probably a fairly typical part of a child's behaviour and development. And to be honest, if I hadn't already been studying autism for different reasons, none of these things probably would have occurred to me or jumped out as being kind of red flags. And to be honest, I really do hope that I am just being paranoid, and that the developmental delays are just due to him being premature. I think the idea of potentially having three out of 4 children having special needs is quite a daunting and scary prospect. But I guess only time will tell. I am going to upload many more videos on the subject. I intend to kind of log our journey into getting my 8-year-old diagnosed, and if it comes to it, obviously my younger son as well. I have a lot more topics within this and within our family life that I'm going to speak about, but I just wanted to come on and give you like a brief history of my family and welcome you all to Juggling Life. So thank you very much for watching, and if you were interested in finding out more about autism and ADHD and, well, juggling life and everything that involves, then please do subscribe, and I will be recording and uploading another video again soon. Thanks guys, bye bye.